This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, so really to have a little Tu B'Shvat get-together, you have to have something to say. So, wasn't sure what would come to mind. But Baruch Hashem, this morning something occurred to me. So I'd like to share with you, I think, a very beautiful idea, and we'll put Tu B'Shvat in a new perspective. I came across a very interesting comment of the Marsha in Masechta Bava Basra. The Marsha tells us that we know on Tu B'Av is a Yom Tif. One of the reasons why Tu B'Av is a Yom Tif is because that is when they would stop cutting the wood for the Mizbeach. Why would they stop cutting the wood for the Mizbeach? Because the sun became weaker on Tu B'Av. It's the end of the summer. The sun became weaker. Because the sun became weaker, so now the wood was not as dry. The wood is not as dry, so there could be moisture in the wood. There's moisture in the wood, there could be worms in the wood, and the worms would passel the wood. So since they stopped cutting the wood, they had more time to learn. So Tu B'Av is a Yom Tif because actually the Gemara says the sun was weaker, the nights got longer. The nights get longer, there's more time to learn. Like Ivri Leila Ela Lagersa, the purpose of learning it, purpose of the night is to learn. So therefore it was a Yom Tif, there is more free time to learn. That's what the Gemara says in Bava Basra, Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph. So the Marsha is bothered by a question. They would stop to cut the wood on Tu B'Av. The Gemara doesn't say when would they start to cut the wood. When was the beginning of cutting the wood? Well, if the sun gets weaker on Tu B'Shvat, when does the sun become stronger? If the nights become longer on Tu B'Av, when do the days become longer? Says the Marsha, it would seem to me that if the process of cutting the wood ended on Tu B'Av, if the process of cutting the wood ended on Tu B'Av, because the nights got longer on Tu B'Av, because the sun got weaker on Tu B'Av, then in all probability they started cutting the wood on Tu B'Shvat, because the sun got stronger on Tu B'Shvat, and the days got longer starting Tu B'Shvat. So that hit me. That means starting today, the sun is starting to get stronger. So even though yesterday was 6 degrees, today was 40 degrees. And even though until now you had long Friday nights, now the nights are going to get shorter, the days are going to start getting longer, the sun is going to be more powerful, it will dry out the wood. So there's an idea that Tu B'Shvat begins the process of the days getting longer. So the following idea occurred to me. The Medrash tells us that the night and the day, v'higisa b'yom v'layla, but primarily there's an idea, the Laila is for Torah Sheba'al Peh, and the Yom is for Torah Shebachsav. The Medrash says, how did Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was on Har Sinai, how did he know when it was day and when it was night? The Medrash says, when he learned Torah Shebachsav, he knew it was day. When he learned Torah Sheba'al Peh, he knew it was night. There's an idea that the Torah is divided into two different time frames. Torah Shebachsav for the daytime, Torah Sheba'al Peh for the nighttime. So I was thinking, that means Tu B'Shvat, the days are getting longer. So even though on Tu B'Av the nights are longer, so there's more time for Torah Sheba'al Peh, but Tu B'Shvat the days are getting longer, so now there's more time for Torah Shebachsav. So what's the connection between the longer duration of Torah Shebachsav and Tu B'Shvat? That's what we're going to try to speak out. I know there are kids over here, so we're going to learn the highest level of mystical information as we can. No, but we'll keep it brief. So Tu B'Shvat begins the period of Torah Shebachsav. The days are longer, there's more time for Torah Shebachsav. There's an interesting idea that when the Aleph Beis appears in order, Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet Hey, that's Torah Shebachsav. When the Aleph Beis appears backward, Tav Shin Reish Kuf, that's Torah Sheba'al Peh. Tashrak is Torah Sheba'al Peh. We see that in the Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us the story of the ger who wanted to be converted on one foot. He says, Hillel, teach me the whole Torah on one foot. Hillel says, Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet. He comes back, and then he says, Aleph Beis Gimel, no. Hillel says, no, Tav Shin Reish Kuf. So the ger said, what do you mean? Yesterday you told me Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet. So Hillel said, just like you trusted me on Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet, you have to trust me on Tav Shin Reish Kuf. The Gemara says from here we see, Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet, that's the written law. backward is Torah Shabbat Peh. Because you had to rely on me, Hillel says, for Tav Shin Reish Kuf. That's why in the Musaf on Shabbos, which on Shabbos is a Zman of Geula, we say Tikanta Shabbos Ratzisa Karmnaisah Tzivisa. We say it backward, because since we're invoking Geula, and Geula will come in the schus of Mishnayis, Ein Hagolios Miskansos Ela B'schus HaMishnah. So therefore, it's associated with Torah Shabbat Peh. This is also this idea that Tashrak is connected to Geula comes from the pasuk Eshrika Akabtseim. Shin Reish Kuf will bring the Geula. Okay. The Torah Shebechsav is associated with Midas Harachamim, and Torah Shabbat Peh is associated with Midas Hadin. Now, even though there are sources just the opposite, but the Vilna Gaon says Torah Shebechsav is Midas Harachamim. What's the evidence for that? Because Midas Harachamim, the Shem Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, 26. There are 24 books of Tanakh, plus the 2 Luchos, 26. So Torah Shebechsav is Midas Harachamim, Shem Havaya. How many Masechtas are there in Shas? 65 Masechtas. 63, but if you count Baba Mitzvah Babas has 3 separate Masechtas, there's 65 Masechtas in Shas. Keneged Aleph Daled Nun Yud, 65. Midas Hadin. So Midas Hadin is Torah Shabbat Peh. Midas Harachamim is Torah Shebechsav. It's interesting. In what month did Hashem create the world? Hashem created the world in Nissan or Tishrei. Which month? It's Machlekes. Rabbi Lezer says Hashem created the world in Tishrei. Rabbi Yeshua says Hashem created the world in Nissan. The Arizal says, but Tosfos already says it in Masechta Rosh Hashanah Daf Chav Zayin, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. Hashem thought to create the world in Tishrei, and He actually created it in Nissan. Okay. But that is consistent with the idea that Hashem wanted to create the world b'midas hadin, and He actually created the world b'midas harachamim. So Hashem planned to create the world in Tishrei because He planned to create the world b'midas hadin. Hashem actually created the world in Nisan because He actually created the world b'midas harachamim. So there are 2 phases of the year. There's the era, there's the Zman, there's the period of Midas Hadin. That's Tishrei. Midas Hadin, we're judged in Tishrei. And that's when Hashem wanted to create the world. And then there's and we know in Tishrei, if you want to get anything done, you got to do tshuva. Rosh Hashanah is Yom Tshuva, Yom Kippur is Yom Tshuva, Shana Rabbah is Yom Tshuva. You can't do anything in Tishrei without tshuva. Tishrei is the month of Midas Hadin. Hashem wanted to create the world in Tishrei, the era of Din. Instead, He created it in Nisan. In Nisan, you don't got to do nothing. In Nisan, you could be in Mitzrayim, you could be naked and bare of mitzvahs, you could have no zechusim, you could be on the 49th level of Tomah, and Hashem yanks you out, even if you do nothing. Nisan is the Zman of Rachamim. So you ready for this? It comes out that Tishrei is Torah Shabbat Peh. Why? Tishrei is Taf Shin Reish. Aleph Beis backward. Backward. That's Midas Hadin. That's Torah Shabbat Peh. Taf Shin Reish. Backward. Taf Shin Reish is Midas Hadin. It's Torah Shabbat Peh. Comes the Smichas Chachamim. The era of Nisan is Chodesh Ha'aviv, Aleph Beis forward. So Nisan is Aleph Beis forward. That's Midas Harachamim. And Tishrei is Midas Hadin, Aleph Beis backward. So we have 2 Zmanim of the year. We have the Zman of Rachamim, that's Chodesh Nisan. We have the Zman of Din, that's Chodesh Tishrei. In the Zman of Rachamim, Aleph Beis is forward. Chodesh Ha'aviv. In the Zman of Din, Aleph Beis is backward. Tishrei, Taf, Shin, Reish, Yud. Now when will we be redeemed? So Rabbi Lezer says you got to be redeemed in Tishrei. Because Rabbi Lezer holds the world was created in Tishrei. Rabbi Lezer is a follower of Shammai. He's a Shamuti. So he believes in Midas Hadin. He says the Geula will only happen in Tishrei. That's why Rabbi Lezer's Shita in Sanhedrin is, Geula will only happen if you do Tshuva. Because you got to earn it. If Geula is going to happen in Tishrei, you better do Tshuva. This is the era, this is the Zman of Midas Hadin. You want to get Geula, you better do Tshuva. Rabbi Yeshua holds you don't need to do Tshuva to have Geula. Because Rabbi Yeshua holds the world will be, Hashem will redeem us in Nissan. So watch this. This is a major gift. So, we're now approaching the Zman of the year of Rachamim. We're moving out. Today we've closed the page on the first era of the year. The first era of the year begins Rosh Hashanah. It's the Zman of Din. And now, case closed. The book is closed. We're done with Midas Hadin. Now, we start to prepare for Chodesh Nissan. Chodesh Nissan is Chodesh of Rachamim. Rachamim, you don't need to do Tshuva. Aleph Beis is forwards. So which Torah is now going to be prevalent in this Zman of the year? Torah Shebechsav, Midas HaRachamim. So, isn't it beautiful? If Chodesh Nisan is the Zman of Rachamim, why? Because Hashem created the world Berachamim in Nisan, but that's when Hashem created man in Nisan. But the creation of the world began when? 6 days earlier on Chaf Hei Adar. And when did it enter Hashem's mind to create the world B'midas HaRachamim? 40 days earlier on Tu B'Shvat. On Tu B'Shvat, it's Allah B'das HaMakim, even though I would have liked to create the world B'midas Hadin, but I'm going to create the world B'midas HaRachamim, that enters his mind, Kiviyachal, on Tu B'Shvat. So what happens corresponding to that on Tu B'Shvat? The sun gets stronger. The days get longer. The days get longer. There's more time for what? Torah Shebechsav. Torah Shebechsav is Midas HaRachamim. Meaning now, today, is the first time of the year where the nights really get shorter, because the Midas Hadin is diminishing, and the Midas HaRachamim is increasing, and we have more Zman for Torah Shebechsav. Okay, so now you ready for the clincher? So it's very interesting that we have like these two parallel times of the year. We have this month of Tishrei, month of Midas Hadin, and Midas Hadin begins on Tu B'Av, where the nights get longer and the Torah Shabbat Peh opportunities are more. Torah Shabbat Peh is Midas Hadin, as opposed to Nisan, which begins Chaf Hei Adar, which begins 40 days earlier. Now the days are longer, Midas HaRachamim. We said in the Shiurim on Tefillah that it's not enough to talk about the light during the daytime and the darkness in the night. We have to talk about Midas HaRachamim, the Midas Hayoim. Midas Hayoim is Midas HaRachamim. Midas HaLayla is Midas Hadin. So now, on Tu B'Shvat, which begins the era of the year, Midas HaRachamim, we have longer days, more Rachamim, more opportunity for Torah Shebechsav. Actually, I have one picture of Rabbi Victor Miller, Zechat Bracha, holding an apple. He was explaining the greatness of an apple. Here, pass me a red apple. You know what he would say? Yona, you're going to like this one. Zalmi, you ready? Ready? Bar mitzvah bachram? Apple. This is what Rabbi Miller would say. It's red. Who painted it red? Who painted it red? Did a painter come and paint it red? Did Italian guy come, Spanish guy come, paint it red? This is going to be very, very good. No, nobody painted. What's so funny? Is that funny? Who painted it red? Hashem painted it red. Why did he paint it red? Because he wants you to eat it. So Hashem doesn't want to waste any paint. So once you see it and you're attracted to it, he doesn't put any red paint on the inside because you already bit into it. You don't need it to be red on the inside. You just need it to be red on the outside. So Hashem paints it red. Now before it's ripe, it's green because it's camouflaged in the tree. Because he doesn't want you to see it. Because it doesn't taste good and you get a stomach ache. But as soon as it's ripe, Hashem paints it red. And now you want it. And now you want it, you're going to bite into it. Because Hashem wants you to enjoy it. Why do we start eating fruits on Tu B'Shvat? You ready for this? How many forces of din are there? Par, 280. 280. There are 280 forces of din. And there are also 320. Par dinim, shach dinim. Yeah, you remember this? How do we get 280? The final letters, menatzpach, mem, nun, sadi, pei, chaf, equals 280. These are the forces of din, 280 and 320. Together, 280 and 320 is 600, tough reish. Okay? They emanate from 86, midas hadin of Elohim. That is referred to as Peiros. Pei reish, 280. Pei reish, vav, taf. Reish and taf is 600. And vav and pei is 86, midas hadin. But by eating Peiros, where you put in the yud is the shem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're mamtik the dinim. Peiros is the epitome of midas hadin. How? 600 is the 280 and the 320, coming from 86. So Peiros, pei, reish, vav, taf. Reish and taf is 600. 600 again is par dinim, shach dinim, 320, 280. And then emanating from 86, vav and pei. Okay, so the 600 includes 320 and 280, par and shach, and emanating from the midas hadin, Peiros, you stick in the yud, that's how you're mamtik the dinim. There's an idea, this is brought in a number of svarim, by eating fruits, you're mamtik midas hadin. All we need to think about is, why do we start to sweeten the midas hadin on Tu B'Shvat? And according to what we just set up, it's very simple. Because until today, it was the Zman of the year of Midas Hadin. Now we're switching gears. Beginning today, we switch gears. Now we're headed into a new era of the year, a new time of the year. The new time of the year begins proper, Rosh Chodesh Nissan. It begins 6 days before, in preliminary, with Chafei Adar. And the thought of it, the preparation for it, the machshava of it, it's Allah b'das Hashem, that it should arise in his mind to start activating Midas Rachamim on Tu B'Shvat. So we eat the fruits, we eat the apple, and we see the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the fruits. And we should be zoicha that now, this time of the year, Hashem should be mashpia on everybody. Midas Harachamim, Midas HaChesed. We should be zoicha to prepare for the Chodesh Nissan. First of all, for Purim, it's Shloshim Yom Koydem HaChag, 30 days before Purim. So now we have to be mahapech the year. We have to be mahapech the zman. So we'll sing v'nahapechu, and we'll prepare for Purim. And of course we're preparing for the Geula, as always. And we should be zoicha only to hashpos of Rachamim Chesed, lanu l'chol Yisrael, amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.